Hi everyone, thanks for stopping by, I appreciate it. Today I'm going to make a double page layout using the new Wander paper and some Cricut image file cuts. So here's the new Wander paper, which I absolutely like the colors. They work so well for any Grand Canyon photos and out west, those kind of color schemes. They're just perfect. So I had noticed on the scrapbook workshop that the layouts had lots of little embellishments on them. So I went ahead and purchased the workshop, and I'm not going to make the layouts as they have done it. I'm going to do my own thing with them, but I am going to just go ahead and use up any of the embellishments that work as I walk through these papers. I have a ton of photos from the Grand Canyon, first from like 1995 when my husband and I went out there before we were married for his brother's wedding, and then again in 2011 when we went out to go visit his brother and took our kids with us. So here's more of the papers from the scrapbook kit, and it gives you the cardstock and it gave you the pre-done layouts and all of those images, and you can see there's just so many little icons and images that they've peppered on the pages that I'm just going to be able to do a ton of layouts with this. So I'm very excited about that. So there's your layouts, just to give you a preview if you just want to use them as they are. And I'm showing both sides of the colored cardstock. There's Peacock and Glacier, I think Canary and Sage, and then Paprika maybe. And you can notice we have both a light and a dark shade. So here I'm going to give you kind of a little bit of what I did in the Cricut design space. So I'm opening up the You Are Here cartridge from Close to My Heart. If you don't already have this image set, if you would purchase it through if you want it and you purchase it through my affiliate link, I do get a little bit of a credit for it, and I would appreciate that. So I'm just going to go through and kind of look and see what photos I might be able to use, and I'm not just looking at the image itself, but also all of the elements of the image. Like I'm pulling this Glacier National Park, I don't know, plaque patch kind of thing, because I really liked the mountains in the background of that, and I thought I could use that. And then I'm just going through and looking to see what's here. We didn't have backpacks or anything like that. I thought about the cactus, but then I'll keep that for another photo, because I do think in one of our trips, we got out of the car and actually stood by this huge cactus. So we're just, from the Midwest and don't see those things. So then I picked the patch for the Grand Canyon and another mountain range that was already separated in case I wanted to use that. So I'm just going to look through the rest of this image set, see if there's anything else that I want to pull, and I don't find anything. So here are the 3 images that I've pulled, and I don't always remember to click outside of my box when it was pulling them all together. I was trying to separate them and it was dragging all of them, so I do that from time to time. So here I'm kind of looking at the mountain range in the background of this Glacier National Park patch, I'm going to call them, and I really like it, and I think that's the mountain range that I want to have as a background on my scrapbook layout. So I haven't fully committed to it yet. That's why I didn't get rid of the other mountain range there on the right. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice it apart. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Cricut Design Space, they have these wonderful tools that, as long as you only have 2 images, so I have my original image of the National Glacier Park patch, and then I added just a shape, so you click on those 2 images together and it will cut them wherever they overlap. Kind of the opposite of welding, I guess. So I'm just going to use shapes and actually cut out the mountain range, and there's probably easier ways to do it. You could mess with contour, and I will do that later, but this is what works for me, and this is kind of my go-to. Like I said, I'm sure there's easier ways to do some of this, but this is just what works for me. And then I realized, hey, if you make this image bigger, you can probably get at it easier. So we're going to skip ahead. I don't think I make you watch me cut all of the outside shapes together, but I wanted to show that, the triangle, if you turn it, and then it does a different image for you. And if you unlock the reference, the ratio box, then I could have had a flat squatty triangle and I wouldn't have had to keep moving the image down the page. So just little things to keep in mind, that if you do this quick little unlock the aspect ratio, then you don't have to play around with stuff so much anymore. But it's been a while since I've had an opportunity to play in the Cricut. Just life has happened. So here the mountain range is all attached from that background. And now I'm looking at changing some colors that work with the Wander papers, and just visually for me it helps me get an idea of what I want to do. So then I realized that the mountains of the Grand Canyon, you know, the sides of the cliff, I'd like those to be this kind of lighter orange color or lighter yellow color. And so I'm going to try to make this patch into 3 different colors. So this will be my background, and then you'll see here that I'm going to kind of poke this under to see what I think. And then I realize, use contour and then you can have it all be. So I like how this is the direction I'm going in. This is kind of my idea. And then finally my brain kicks in and says, use contour. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a copy of the top layer that has all the cuts in it. I'll move it off to the side, and then I will contour, and by selecting all of the different layers of the sides of the cliffs of the Grand Canyon, it won't cut those out, and you'll see when it goes back to the original how then this is kind of all one solid image that just ends up being the middle layer of this whole patch process. And then I'm going to take out the background pieces for Grand Canyon. So all I did with this was in the bottom right hand corner there's a button that says contour, and I'm literally clicking on the ones that I don't want to cut. And I'm just making sure that my clouds are going to have the blue behind them and not the yellow. So here's my, with all the contours hidden, and I'm going to change the color now, and watch what happens. I'm going to delete this, I think, when we slide this middle section in. So now we have a 3-layer patch. I need to move this to the front, and that's what I'm going to have to do with it. And I jumped ahead, and there's now 2 of them because I knew with how many photos that I have from the Grand Canyon, I don't care if I have this patch on every page. It's just kind of a nice little moniker because they might end up in different albums. So now I'm deciding that I want the mountains on the left hand side to also be filled in, and I'm not going to have you watch all of that, but suffice it to say that I make a border and then I'll go ahead and fill in the contours behind the mountain, and I do end up welding the red outline over top so that it's all one image. And I did have some problems with my camera, so I lost some footage, and I apologize on that. So you can see how it cut it out on the Cricut, and I'm showing you with this mono erasing thing. You can barely tell it on the camera, but in real life I erased some of the yellow and made it kind of mountain peaks and whatever, and it just gave it a tone on tone look. So I'm dry fitting some of the pieces that I have from the Wonder paper and seeing what works, and I wanted to make sure that I had the night sky stars on both pages to kind of balance that color. And then I realized that there's no glacier on the left hand page, so I slip a piece of glacier cardstock as my background, and I really like how that turns out. And you can see I have multiple of these patches. I cut something, I don't remember, I cut something wrong, and so I had to cut again, and then it just cut more of the fronts of the patches. So I was like, all right, I'll cut 2 more and that gave me then 4 patches, which will be great because I have so many photos, like I said. So I just dovetailed the end of that blue, and I really like how that turned out. And then this time tube banner came from the workshop, the Scrapbook Workshop papers, and I went and used on our site, at least when I was making this, they have these block letter dies, the full alphabet and numbers, that are only $28 for all of these things. And so I purchased it last month, and I went and out of the star paper cut the letters for Explore, and I actually cut them multiple times because I was having one of those days. There's just a lot going on in our world, and I cut the letters upside down, and the back of the paper, which was the glacier color, was the P in the right direction, and that's not what I wanted. So I did have to cut those a couple times. So then there was a frame again from the pieces from the workshop kit, and I just cut that in half and put it over both sides. And now I'm going to start attaching some of these elements to the page. And you'll notice that I go ahead and I attach my base page to my VersaMat just so that it doesn't tilt and move, so I can get things aligned using the rulers around the outside edge. I did use the edge distressor, easy for me to say, and distress the edges of the paper, and I'm gonna do that again with pretty much everything at this point. It seems to work well, in my opinion, with the feel of the Grand Canyon National Park. So gluing those down, and then I did the edges again of that little banner, and I'm putting it on top of the paprika papers, and I'm just kind of bringing my photos back in, and I'm just I should have taken a photo when I dry fit it, and I normally do that, but again, it was just one of those days. So bear with me here as we create this layout again. I really like this banner flag thing as part of a title, and I'm going to kind of put a note in my scrap room as far as, hey, for titles you might want to put it on a flagpole, and I like that effect. So now I'm just going to glue the letters on, and I will use the liquid adhesive, I'm sure, because that gives you a little more time to move them around if you need to after you've laid them out. If they're not spaced correctly, it gives you a chance to kind of move them a little bit. And here's the tip for you, expert tip. Don't put the letters on all in a line. Make them look jagged and different and at an angle, and then you don't have to worry about if something is a little crooked, because they're all a little crooked. So these were punches from the scrapbook kit again, and they have little like chads on them, so I like to file those off. I know they don't bother other people. I just figure if they bother me, emery board them off and move on. So I noticed at the end of doing my layout that on this page I used a lot of these little stickers and the crosses and stars and those kind of elements on this left page, but I didn't actually use them on the right page at the time that I created this, and so I went back and added them before I put them into my page protectors for my album. So you will be happy to know that there is now balance in my world for this layout in my scrapbook albums. There are just so many stickers and so many images and icons to choose from. Adjust your altitude was the one on the right, and I was also having camera issues, so again I didn't have the footage for creating the right side of the page, and I apologize for that. These trees are actually made out of clay. There was a gal that would come to our crops, and she just sold all of these embellishments that she made at night out of vellum and clay, and she sold them so inexpensively. In fact, all of us kept trying to say, you need to charge more, and we would tip her, and it was just great. So these trees are from my stash, and they were something that another small businesswoman made, so I am all about supporting that. So that's where these trees came from. And now I'm auditioning some more pieces of the cut aparts and the punch outs and everything that I have on my desk, that if it came from one of the Wander kits, it's fair game, or if it's a tree from my stash, it's also fair game. So I really am, the trees have a little sparkle to them, but it's not too overpowering in real life. I really like the hint that it gives to it. And then there was a little moose that I added to the left hand page that was also one of Sandy's embellishments, I'll call them, and he was just too cute to not include in the page. So now I'm kind of trying to, I don't want to say step back, but pull myself out of the creating mode and kind of look at it with an artistic eye of, is there balance, is there things that I need? And that's where I'm going, oh, this is where my journal goes. And I'd thought about making lines, and it was like, no, I want to actually do strips. So that's what I did. I printed them out and cut them, and now I'm just arranging them and kind of gonna space them out and glue them down there. I wasn't much into strip journaling until recently, and I really like it. I think it's important to have your handwriting and those personalizations. And I know with how many photos I have from the Grand Canyon, I will absolutely have pages that I write on. But I was here in the studio creating this page, and I had access to my printer, and I really like this look. So it's just a way to kind of change things up. I'm really liking the mountain, and now you can kind of see more those eraser marks that I put and showed at the beginning of this layout. If you want to see more of the Cricut files, because there is just a image set for $10 for the Wander paper pack, and there's cactus in it and they come all apart. So here's the left page, and now we're going to take a look at the right page with all the journaling, and it basically just says where we started in the middle at the visitor center, went up to the upper canyon, and then down to the lower canyon, or the lower side, lower rim. If you haven't subscribed, I would love it if you joined us, and otherwise here's another video you might be interested in, and have a blessed day.